A woman has opened up about the destructive impact that her divorce had on her family and how it left her questioning whether or not she had done the right thing. This is what she has written. She says, 16 years ago, I separated from my first husband. At the time, I was convinced it was the right thing, not just for us, but our 4 children, aged 6, 4 and 2-year-old twins. It's only years later that I realised I was, and these are her words, naive to the point of idiocy about the effect that it would have on them, convincing myself it was far better for children to grow up in a single, happy household than in a family home where their parents were miserable. And that's often the way it's presented, isn't it? That you're not happy with your relationship and you either have this road that you're miserable and the kids are in a miserable household, or you're happy but it is a broken home. I mean, when you were facing those decisions, is that the way that you saw it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the reason I stayed probably longer, 2 or 3 years longer than I should have in both marriages, actually, was because of the kids. And especially the first time round, because the boys were young. And I really had this thing about being a statistic. Oh, I'm the 1 in 3, and the kids are from a broken home. And I had this terrible guilt. But then I remember as a child watching my parents and wondering why my mum didn't leave when I think she should have. Because, you know, although they had a love for each other, she definitely was in love with my dad, and I think my dad loved her, but I don't know if he was in love with her. And I never saw them holding hands or doing anything tactile. And, you know, there was times when he wasn't very nice to her. And I remember as a young kid thinking, I'm never going to let that happen to me. And the decision I made, well, I actually went to counselling for it as well, was, do I stay in a marriage where I bring the boys up thinking it's OK to be like this? Or do I do I leave and show them that, you know, a woman doesn't have to put up with that or whatever? And also, the main thing for me was the protection of, both times, the protection of my kids. So I thought, whatever's gone on between you know, me and Shane or me and Ray, I'm not going to let it affect my kids, and I never did. You know, I never slagged their dads off in front of them or... And it's testament to us that at Shane Jr.'s wedding, both my ex-husbands were there, Maureen's ex-husband was there, Maureen's ex-partner, who's Shane's godfather, was there, and everyone just got on. And it's because we never let it get that... No matter what had gone on between me and my exes, I really didn't let it affect me and the kids.
Which is, of course, the ideal. I mean, and that is absolutely the sort of advice that you're given. But it's always going to have some effect.
Of course it is.
I mean, has it affected, you think, your kids?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, there's no way you can get off scot-free. Of course it affects them. But you can hopefully lessen the damage that it does. It's always going to damage them to a certain extent. And I think she's right as well about being naive to think that won't happen. And equally, all the people you've met, all the families that have bonded, because you kind of lose all of that when you split up. You know, you're losing people that have been best friends with you or related to you by marriage for 20 years, and all of a sudden they're gone, because you can't stay friends with everyone. No. But yeah, of course, I'm aware that whatever I've done, and I've done it to the best of my ability, it might not have been always great, but of course they're always going to be damaged because their mum and dad are divorced.
Well, of course, kids can be damaged in households that mum and dad stay together and are ostensibly happy. But what's your experience, Brenda?
Well, firstly, I kind of don't like the term broken home.
No, I don't like it either.
It says something, you know, it's not broken, it's just a little bit bent, is what I'd like to say. But broken, I just think, is the wrong term to put to the children. And with my situation, I was married for 27 years, so Jamal and Tanisha were they were in their 20s when I got divorced, and it was more about having an open conversation and communication with them, really, to say, you know, this is what happens. Mum and Dad, we've kind of grown apart and we might not see eye to eye, which sometimes happens in friendships and relationships, and we've decided to... And that's how we kind of did it. So it's very amicable, there's no arguments. I don't really do arguments like that anyway, but it's important, what Colleen says, to not do that in front of the children. But, you know...
But it was Kira, I mean, the difference in the ages, because the boys were really young, they were like 4 and 7, and then Kira was kind of 15 when it started going wrong between me and Ray, and it was actually Kira that told me to leave.
Yeah. Really?
But she could identify it more. When you're 4 and 7, you don't really know what's going on, you're just living in a bubble. And I think as the child gets older, maybe to a teenager age, when they're a bit more responsible and they can understand things more, I think that's when you know, if you're going through problems, sit them down and just have an adult family kind of conversation.
And I just say it's not so much the act of it itself, it's how you do it.
Deal with it, yeah.
And also, I don't really get that whole regret thing. She did, you know, break up her marriage. It was 16 years ago. Why throw that out there? That's a bit of a nothing.
Well, I know,
it just places, you know...
We all make tough decisions as we go through life, and they all kind of contribute to the way that we see life. I think it's difficult to isolate particular times, though clearly it's a huge one in people's lives, isn't it? I mean, the one thing, I mean, I've never been in that situation, so I'm not in a position to comment. And obviously, the best thing is not to let it affect the kids.
That's because you are with a saint.
Oh, you keep saying that. He's going to get a big head. But I do have lots of friends who've been through divorce, and they probably have let it affect their children. And it doesn't make them bad people. But
just to say,
it is a blooming difficult
the
situation.
parents aren't using the children as weapons out of that and going into that.
But I think sometimes people don't know that's what they're doing because their anger is so great, and maybe 10 years down the line they realise they were doing and maybe regret that. But when they're in the moment, it's sometimes difficult to kind of see the wood for the trees. Yeah.